Welcome back to the Metaverse Guy podcast. And today I have with me my very good friend Sam Kamani. Now, Sam is a passionate proponent of Web 3.0. He has been a best-selling author of the 30-day startup, and he has his own podcast as well called Web 3.0 with Sam Kamani. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Prafulla. It's great to be back on the show with you and talking back again with you. Every time I talk with you, I have so much fun. And just, I see all this opportunity and enthusiasm and just positivity. Whenever I talk with you, I come back with so many more ideas that I want to implement. So look, it's always a good fun talking with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sam. And to get started, please tell our audience more about you, what you have been doing in the Web3 space, P2E space. We'd love to hear from you first.
Yeah, sure. So, look, I'll tell you a bit about my background. Like, I grew up in India, but last 20 years I've been, or 22 plus years I've been out of India. I live in Auckland, New Zealand. So, if any one of you is listening is here, want to catch up for coffee, feel free to give me a yell. My DMs are open on LinkedIn or Twitter. And yeah, so I've worked in India, I've worked in US, I've worked in a few different countries around the world. And most of the time I've been involved in different tech startups. So my first startup I built was in e-commerce space. I built it and I sold that company in 2015. That was my first exit. Then I joined another startup and quickly became a COO with a small stake in the company, and that was in esports. And this is in 2017-18. And I've always been a gamer. I've always been extremely interested in gaming and things that do, provide fun. So I recently gave a TED talk on gamification, on how you can gamify any experience and increase engagement. So it's just some passion of mine. But then that company got acquired in 2018. And after that, I've worked with agencies in helping other startups create like minimum viable products. I've written books on startups. And over time, I have gone more and more into the whole blockchain side, the crypto side, the Web3 side of things. I've always dabbled in it since like 2016, 17. Back then when it wasn't this popular, like how it is now. But I kept in contact with all those people, and I saw how it has pulled in some of the smartest people in every country are now working in this space, whether it is DeFi or tokenization or blockchain-based games or anything you can think of. Things are happening in this space, and that's why there are smart people like you building some amazing companies in this space, and that the growth is insane. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. And because of all this, last week I decided to join Moonstream.to. So Moonstream.to is a San Francisco-based startup in this space where we make on-chain game mechanics for Web3 games. So they are blockchain games. They want to get understanding of their analytics, of what's happening, what people are doing off-chain and what they're doing on-chain, and how do you reward people on chain and those sort of things, or run loyalty programs, run loot boxes, those sort of things. So that's what we do. We make the mechanics that those games use, and we help them with smart contracts and things like that. And in the last 8 months or so, we've had over $3 billion in transaction value go through our platform. So it is just growing like crazy, but it is a very technical product, very engineering heavy, and it's a B2B product. So it's not we don't have a B2C component, but being on the back end and seeing what is happening, I come across lots of different opportunities, and I get to see things in a slightly different way than just the 10K profile pic projects, and where NFTs are really being used, or where Metaverse is really sort of shining and have come across some really, really interesting opportunities. And I can see where the world is moving to and where there will be opportunities in the next 2 or 3 years. And so yeah, I would love to talk about all that stuff. But yes, continue. Let's hear what things are going on with Vostel and how things are going on with Metaverse on your side of things as well.
This is actually very exciting, and as you mentioned, Wassel and Web10, we share this passion for metaverse and Web3, and you know how we've been building these building blocks of the Web3 gaming and Web3 based use cases of the metaverse. I want to discuss more about because you've been involved in this space for a few years now, and you discuss things and you interact with a number of stakeholders of the space.
Yes,
What
absolutely.
is your worldview of where we are headed as Web 3.0, decentralized economies, P2E games? What is that worldview that Sam has today?
Okay, so I am quite old, and I'll be showing my age. If anyone has used email in the late 1990s or early 2000s, I don't know if you have or if people remember back then. Back then, in email, most of the emails that ended up in your inbox were spam from a Nigerian prince trying to sell you a dream or some Viagra replica or something like that. And back then, there were scams on emails like that all the time because the email filters weren't developed enough. The spam filters weren't developed enough. And so at that stage, and where online communication is today, so that's the difference. And so we are in that stage right now of the late 1990s email stage of Web3. and you are seeing all these scams and you're seeing all these things and all these things going wrong. But when other people see all these problems, I see those as opportunities for you to solve those problems, because the people who are able to solve these problems, like Gmail did, end up with massive sort of, I don't know, empires of their own. So people can sit on the sidelines, which is always easy, and criticize that, hey, this has this sort of scam, or this is the yes. So that means that there is need for people to go and solve those problems. So there are a lot of problems also in Web3 and Metaverse and NFT space. And I'm sure you hear all the headlines, because headlines are sensationalized and they sell. So, but I see that as my handbook of where we can solve problems and where there is opportunity. So yeah, that's my view of where Web3 is going, and a lot of these problems will be solved over time and ironed out.
Yeah, and even if you look at it from an angle of internet advancement as a whole, if you remember the last time that we talked, you can look at it from a perspective of the God debris coming together, and how internet was already bringing in the collective human knowledge together. Now, Web 3.0, which is the latest version of internet, is giving us a chance to not only bring all this human knowledge together, but also to be able to interact with this knowledge in a very different dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is one more thing that Web 2 missed that Web 3 is not. And that is actually not one. Actually, there's two or three things. One of that is ownership in tokenized forms of anything, whether it is a property in Metaverse that can be tokenized 1,000 times, or a property in real life that could be tokenized and divided into 1,000,000 pieces. And if that's tokenization and of any asset, whether it is your tennis racket or your jewels or anything, or your clothes in a video game, and being distributed, and the ability to get those things traded, which didn't exist to the same level in Web 2. And I see this all the time. We were talking about play to earn games, and in play to earn games or any sort of blockchain based games, you get loot boxes, or you might get rewards that are in form of NFTs. And then these NFTs can then be traded on OpenSea. Like you are in Philippines or you are in India and you're trading those and selling those to someone in South Latin America is buying that, and in split second, across the world, it's happening. It didn't used to happen with this ease. We just forget at the ease with which these things are starting to happen. So we don't need any contracts, unlike the Web 2 era. All of these are taken care by all these platforms and stuff. So yeah, it's the ownership and then the tokenization and the fractionalization of assets. That's added on top of Web 2 innovation.
Would you want to talk more about what are the different use cases decentralization in Web 3.0 is being used for? You may choose to talk about how P2E games and what different kind of P2E games are coming in, how they have their parallel economies, what are the other kind of NFTs, access-based NFTs. Would you want to talk more about those?
Oh yeah, so much. So I think we haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to NFTs. So couple of weeks ago, I got two different real estate companies reach out to me in New Zealand, and basically they build apartments. So they have lots, hundreds of apartments, and they have empty stock of apartments that they want to sell. But of course, just because they want to sell, that does not mean they want to sell it for dirt cheap. In fact, they want to maximize their profit. Any property developer wants to do that. I mean, it's business. So they reached out to me that, hey, can you help us fractionalize our apartment into NFTs and sell those NFTs onto the open market, and then the money goes into a DAO, and then when the property is rented out, more money comes in, and so that the DAO becomes wealthier and wealthier, and so you can you get money back from it, or you can sell that NFT, which will be worth more because it's a part, pretty much a fraction of that DAO. So and people who hold that NFTs can decide whether they want to keep renting it or sell that. And this has done a different thing, because in New Zealand, the property prices have gone crazy over the last 2 years, that average young person can no longer afford property unless the parents help them, even with a mortgage. But so say it's like a property is $1 million, and which is like million multiplied by 50 rupees, so it's like 5 crore. So it's like young people cannot buy they cannot buy it. But that same $1 million can be divided into 1,000 pieces of $1,000, and suddenly it's just a $50,000 rupee investment by a young person, which is equal to buying a mobile phone. And so they can get on the property ladder with $50,000, as well as start earning rent from that, and then they can just sell that NFT. So this sort of a thing was not possible before this whole, and it can be done with an incredible ease. And that person can now sell that property's NFT not only in New Zealand but in the whole world, and suddenly they just don't have a market of 5 or 6 million, they have a market of 7-8 billion people, theoretically. And this is only going to happen more and more, because if you are a property developer, why do you want to just sell it to, say you have a property in Andheri, why do you want to only sell it to people in Andheri, or like nearby suburbs? What if anyone in the world could buy a fraction of your property and resell it or trade it and stuff? And you can imagine how much profit it could be made. And this is not only for that, it could apply to jewelry, it could apply to antiques, it could apply to art, it could apply to any asset in the world. And we are not even talking about leverage or anything, even without just that, or staking it or getting rent from it or anything like that. So there is a lot of innovation that is going to come, because whenever there is innovation of money, it changes the whole market. Just like what made the Dutch East India Company rule over the world was that it was the first sort of publicly traded, or it was the innovation of the stock market associated with it that allowed it to raise money to go and build those ships. So, and this is the innovation of money now tied to gaming, or innovation of money tied to art, or pretty much any industry. And that's where I see where this is going to change the world over the next few years, and the opportunities are immense. And there's just not many people working in it. It's like we are looking for team, we are looking for staff, everyone is looking for staff. It's crazy. Yeah.
So you talked about these utility-based use cases, and I think
Yes.
That's so essential to any space like this. Is that once people start seeing that sort of a utility, and I'm not even talking about the kind of money people earning from Axie Infinity and others. I'm also
Yes.
talking about the NFT-based utilities, accesses that people can provide, businesses can provide. That helps in basically optimizing the hype cycles that come. So the NFTs started, and then there was a hype cycle, and I really believe that once those utility use cases come up, people will start realizing where these NFTs are essential, and even where these P2E game-based NFTs are
Yes.
essential as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, okay, so for a lot of the play to earn games, and they have you need to hold their NFT to participate in that, and then the NFT is quite expensive, it's $3,000. So what's that in rupees? It's like it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of money for someone to just fork out to go and play a game, and then maybe earn $10 on the other side. So there are guilds that are formed up, and some of the guilds have like 20, 50,000, 100,000 people, 1 lakh people in those guilds. And then those guilds kind of fundraise, and then go and get you an NFT, and then you pay them back, and they are all self-organized, and they work and they function better than some of the larger companies like IBM and stuff, which is amazing to see that this sort of innovation is happening at a decentralized level, and people are coming together to work and earn money and stuff. And as much as people knock it that, oh, this is just like we are doing mindless work, but people play games. There's over 3 billion people who play games. So what if some people made a living wage in Philippines or Bangladesh out of it? Good for them, and they are playing Axie Infinity today. They might be playing, they will play probably some other game tomorrow. I mean, it happened with even regular Web2 games. So that's fine. Whoever builds a more engaging game, whoever creates a better economy, it's like people will move there. It's like people not only vote with their wallets, people also vote with their feet, and that happens even in a country. That's why brain drain happens. People vote with their feet all the time. So if the game's economy sucks, or the mechanic sucks, or the engagement sucks, or community sucks, they'll just go to another game. And so that's why all these things will become more and more important. And when these things get more important, it will need people to build better games. It will need people to build better engagement, to build better communities, to do better marketing, to do better branding. So all those things, and that means all those jobs. Where are the people going to come for? So if you're listening to this episode, go jump onto this field and start learning, start creating, and start engaging in one of these communities.
Yeah. See, I want to come back on this point of opportunities. Just to add to what you talked about, that unlike Web2 based games, wherein if you are playing a game, what you are getting as a user is enjoyment, but the money is made by the game provider.
Someone else.
Now in Web3, the good part is that you make sure that the game becomes more viral and becomes successful, and you are getting paid for doing that as well. So the user is benefiting both from the enjoyment perspective as well as from the economy perspective.
Exactly right. Yes. And that's why there will be considerations, and that's why people who are early right now will be able to build better mechanics and learn and get that experience of how to create better Web3 games, because Web3, creating a Web3 game is a completely different gameplay than Web2 game. People have different motivations and people are engaged by different things. And then, everyone is learning in Web3. So it's okay if you make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. No launch goes smoothly of a Web3 game. No one can follow the roadmap and create everything right on point as it was said, because everyone's learning. Everything is new. A lot of the things are being done for the first time. So it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. But if you're early, you would have learned so much from your mistakes that you'd be able to create better products in future, and you would have, like, in a way, monopoly to your sort of knowledge or your knowledge base. So yeah, I think this is the time to, and there are multi-billion-dollar Web2 gaming companies, but it is very, very hard for them to pivot into this model. They are stuck. It's like, why should we pay someone to play our game? So they will face competition because everyone is fighting for the same engagement. Everyone's fighting for the same eyeballs. And if suddenly out of the 3 billion gamers, 1.5 billion start over next few years, suddenly they've lost half their market share of engagement. Which they probably know, but they just don't know how to get out of it. And the thing is, a lot of these Web3 games, they are making money as well as creating wealth for other people. So they are not funded in the same way as Web2 games. They are funded by the DAOs and the guilds and things like that. So the players have the ownership, whereas the Web2 games, it might be Activision or Ubisoft, they would be publicly listed or owned by another company that's publicly listed. So their shareholders have different criteria than the people who play. Now it's the people who play own the game, so which is very different.
True. Let's talk more about in terms of in all of this. Where can people come and participate? What are the opportunities for people to come and leverage Web 3.0, NFT, P2E, Metaverse, these aspects?
So much. So much. First of all, they should listen to your podcast and give your podcast a 5-star rating. That's the minimum. And subscribe to it.
And so to yours as well.
Thank you. Very kind. So I do talk about a lot about all these, like how to get started, or I have each episode like that, like I sometimes do monologues and stuff. But then there are lots of resources, and one of the things you can do is look for guilds, like gaming guilds. Join a guild and see how things are done, how people are collaborating and things. And there are country-specific guilds. So if you are in Philippines, there would be like a Philippines-specific guild for that game, or India-specific game. India has lots of guilds as well in India, or Vietnam's country-specific guild for a game. So join a guild in your sort of country. Go online to some of their events and stuff, whether they're on Discord. So a lot of this all happens on Discord. So join Discord first of all, and just learn from people. It's like there is nothing like learning by doing and get involved in a game. Everyone who's dealt in NFTs, it's likely you'll lose some money. It's just likely, because everyone's learning. It's okay to make mistakes.
Which is similar to stock market as well. Anybody who enters for the first time, except having some beginner luck, you lose money.
Yes.
In the first time.
Yeah. Oh no, actually in NFT world, there are people who have bought NFTs for $80 or $70 and made millions. But that's beginners luck. You cannot take that as a benchmark. Most people, when they spend $50, $60, $70, they've lost that money, like 5,000 rupees equivalent to, or something like that, or so yeah, don't worry about that, or just go and observe first. Join some of these communities and observe first. There are, of course, a whole wealth of information out there, but this space moves a lot faster than any other space, any other industry you can think about. There's just so much to learn, so much to do. I'll also actually share, okay, if you want to become a developer, because developers in this space are getting paid like nothing is, they're getting paid 3-4 times more than developers in other industries, like software developers or software engineers in other industry. So if you want to become a developer, there'd be a few things you could learn. You could learn them on Udemy or YouTube, or lots of free resource out there, or very cheap resource out there. You could learn Solidity, or learn Rust, or learn JavaScript frameworks and stuff. The other thing is, if you want to go on the design route, learn Figma, learn Blender, learn Unity, learn some of those sort of softwares. And then the third one is just community management and stuff, and then spend your life on Twitter Spaces and Discord. And that's the marketing side of things, and partnership and business development side of things. So there's few different ways you can get involved or look for a career in this sort of space. I'm sure. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this is actually a good place where we should talk about, if you are a creator, and this is now becoming a creator's economy. And good that you talked about why it's so important to kind of learn Solidity or Unity and others. However, I would also add that if you are a creator, if you have a creative bent of mind, many platforms are now coming up. So at Boston, we are very focused on building no-code platforms. Now you don't actually need to write code.
That's amazing.
Or it's a hassle-free way to kind of host your creations, and they automatically become Web3 compliant, augmented reality experiences. So even if you are a creator and you don't want to learn technology as such, there are platforms like Boston which are completely no code, and just go and learn the way you would want to learn Unity, but you would want to have a coding skill set on that. On what kind of frameworks you can just go and upload your stuff, and it becomes Web3 compliant AR straight away.
So that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So I mean, the design skills will definitely still help them if they have, like, they can use Blender and they can create some elements and then bring them to Wassel, and then create those.
But you raise a fair point here, Sam, and that people have to kind of get into technology, learn technology. What about this question has two parts. What about people who are not very tech savvy? And partly we've answered that question with no code kind of frameworks. But more importantly, what are the other challenges people and businesses find in this space today? What are those challenges which are kind of restricting them to even take that first step into the Web3 decentralization?
The thing is that there will be opportunities for every genre, for every niche, for everyone. It's like I have a couple of friends who have done exceedingly well at a global stage, at a global level, because they were lawyers in the regular environment, just corporate lawyers and stuff. But they started going to just all these events, and then started speaking at all these Web3 events, and they've now become specialized in Web3 and educating companies and businesses about them and how to navigate that and how to protect your assets and all sorts of things. So all they do is just talk about that and go to events and take like senior leadership level or strategic sort of roles and stuff, and they have built an amazing career. Do they know programming? No, absolutely not. They don't know coding. They don't know designing. They don't have but they know that the whole profession of law is going to be affected. People will have properties in their metaverse, and they're going to have property disputes in metaverse. They know that there's going to be copyright infringement issues. There's going to be all sorts of things that established companies as well as new ones will need support. And so they just pretty much transported their business onto this side of things without really knowing coding or without. So that was just one example, but it will apply to nearly every industry. They will have, if they are the first ones and they are so much in demand and there's no competition, they can charge, instead of the regular $400 an hour, they can charge $4,000 an hour now. So there is a lot of opportunity for anyone interested. And that, exactly as you said, that does not mean you have to learn even graphic design or even programming or any sort of skill, or in fact, they're not even on Discord as much, but they have carved out a niche for themselves. Yeah. So yeah, and there is a niche for everyone. And just like how what we do is so niche at Moonstream.to, but we help game economies grow by when they leverage our sort of technology, and we've helped some of them grow by like 300% in a couple of months and stuff. Because the other thing is, like, these game economies are like economies of a country, and you have to really work at getting that dynamics and stuff right. So even all these games are going to have so many different jobs and so many different sort of niches and different skills that they will need, that there might be something that you'll find. And it is all a lot of fun, and everyone in this has so much energy and so much positivity in this space that so yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
Excellent. Talk a little bit more about how are you solving this P2E analytics problem? How are people benefiting from the platform today?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting one. I have just joined not that long ago. Once again, even though I train as a software developer, I haven't kept up, and I don't develop any software for any of the businesses that I've worked in or involved in. I mainly help more on the partnership sides and business development side. But just to give you an overview, this will get slightly a bit more technical, and that is that currently on blockchain, say if there is any transaction, you can enter that on each scan or polygon scan and find that, trace that history. But what if you have 10,000 players and there is lots of different transactions and lots of things going on, and then suddenly you want to reward your most loyal players or the players who are doing the best, like on-chain rewards for on-chain transactions and stuff, and it gets extremely complicated. So with our product, they are able to do that. They are able to monitor it. They get like a dashboard and stuff, which we have to set it up based on what they need it for, and they can see that, okay, these changes are happening in the economy, or it even catches sort of security bugs and stuff. Even though we don't sell it for that, but it catches any abnormalities happening, and it immediately goes and snipes that sort of wallet and stops it from happening and stuff. So that's one component of it. The other components of it are it provides sort of a Web3 engine for what do you call play to earn games, P2E games, and that allows them to put loot boxes and loyalty programs and leaderboards and all those things on chain without costing them a whole bunch of gas and stuff like that. So it's optimized for all that. So once again, it's very sort of a niche and highly sort of a technical product that most of the people who work with our company are like the product managers or sort of the CTOs and stuff in a play to earn game. So yeah, so that's what we do. But there are niches in all sorts of fields that that you can find in the space.
Excellent. So we've covered a whole lot of topics today, Sam. Finally, talk to the audience about your book and your podcast, please. Tell us more about
Yeah,
it.
sure. Yeah. So I wrote this book. It's called The 30-Day Startup, and wrote it in about 30 days because we wanted to stay true to the mission and ensure that it can be done. So basically, it talks about that if you've got an idea, you go and implement it really fast. You don't have to build it the best. You can use, and we also talk about a lot of no-code tools. Now, this is written 2.5 years ago, which we did. That's when we didn't know about Wassel. Otherwise, we would have written about Wassel. But there are tools like that which people can use, like no-code tools. It does not have to have all the technical answers, in the backend, or you can even do it like in a traditional sense. If it's not a Web3, it's a Web2. You can have like a concierge minimum viable product or an MVP where people can, fulfill the service in the backend manually. So it's just a front, it's just a facade, and you just interact with that. And that shows that there's proof, there's demand, because the extremely hard part of any SaaS product or any MVP or a Web2 product is the sales and marketing and getting people to use it, because so many people build products that no one wants to use. They just build because they feel like they have an idea and it will be it will be used by everyone. The thing is that they don't realize that even companies like Google and Microsoft, and they get things wrong and they build products that no one uses. So why not just spend 1 month or 4 weeks instead of 4 years on building something quick to test, to see if the demand really exists, or the demand only exists in your head. So so that's pretty much the whole thesis of the book, that build something fast. And then it's examples of how to do that throughout the book, and how to promote it as well in that much, like a limited time, or get that first traction and stuff. So that's the book. And the podcast is called Web3 with Sam Kamani. You can search it on any audio platform, and it's where I talk about all things to do with Web3, NFTs, Metaverse. I've had the pleasure of having Prafulla on my podcast to talk about Metaverse and Wassel. All sorts of topic: DeFi, tokenization, gamification. And then of course, now that I'm working in sort of play to earn games or blockchain based or NFT gaming, I will be covering a lot more topics on that, on how you can get started in that, how you can start making some money or making a career in that, and making it work for you while having a lot of fun. So yeah, that's
fantastic. Fantastic. I really believe that people will get a lot of help, especially new entrepreneurs will get a lot of help reading your book. I really like the idea to test out the waters, and if you can do that cheaply in terms of time, that's very, very important. And I am also very hopeful that people will benefit from subscribing to your podcast as well. Thank you, Sam. It was lovely talking to you. And we did cover a lot of very interesting topics. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Just one last thing, and that is, anyone, if you have any questions about, or if you're building a game or a blockchain-based game, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. My DMs are always open on LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. And whenever I have time, I'd be able to reply you.